the cloud. Morning, morning, morning. It's June 6th. It's kind of like we're all ready for summer and all our plans.
We had snow last week.
Oh geez, yeah. Well, I'm in
Yeah.
California, so it's a different story
Late
here.
season. Are you in your pool?
Yes, I will tell you about that. So anyway, so getting started. We've been going through the steps, kind of just like an overview. And last week we tried to do step 5, but it was my energy was low and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I did pull up the workbook sheets that I can share with you guys and some of the questions. And over this weekend, I did the it's called Y12SR. It's a leadership training for teaching or leading a 12-step meeting / yoga. So I learned some really neat intervention tools for when we catch ourselves living in the past or living too far ahead in the future, and just to bring you back into the presence, and some resilience for your nervous system so we can retrain our brain paths and the chemistry in our body. And I find it so interesting that kind of like on Nemo. Here, let me tag myself here. If you guys have seen the movie Nemo, Finding Nemo, you know how the little octopus and it inks and she goes, oh, you made me ink. Like you made me pee, kind of. I just thought it was funny. But when we have a fight or flight or freeze feeling, it could be like you just dropped your coffee cup off the table, or someone kind of moved into your lane a little bit, or someone yells at you. Your body has the exact same reaction, and it floods your body with these chemicals to get your body ready, like these adrenaline and cortisols, to get you ready to run. So if that happens consistently over a period of time, a long period of time, more than a few times a day, that is the seed of chronic illness. So in preventing our body from suffering and pain, it behooves us to work on resilience training for our nervous system. It's kind of like if you've been living with the dial on your stereo on high, we want to turn the dial down. Does that make sense, you guys? So I'm real excited about learning as much as I can about helping the chemistry in our brain have less inks. I have little kids, so forgive me. And I'm also a Disney fan. So getting back to this safe space for us, I would love to hear from you guys. Any thoughts, if something that you'd like to share. So I learned something new, and usually in our essential emotions discussion, we identify, just say, if I would like feedback, or if I would just like you guys to listen. But if we could try something different, so in the Y12SR, the 12-step yoga training, we do a breath at the end of our share. So, just a couple of minutes just to check in. But at the end, we all hold space and ground and root and take a breath. It could be, you don't have to do the gesture here. It could just be hands on the heart, and we all will take a breath with you. So I really like that practice. It helps me feel like I don't take on other people's stuff. And it also makes me feel like we're all staying present and listening. So anyway, so I'd love to hear from you guys how you're doing. And if you had an essential oil or a holistic tool you'd like to share that helped you on your journey.
I will share. I'm just grateful to be here today. So last week marks the second week in a row that I went to my CODA class face to face. And that has been absolutely amazing. I actually shared for the first time last week too. And I'm just grateful, like, to just be being more kind to myself. Like when I think about the oil Melissa is actually my favorite essential oil. Even before joining doTERRA, Melissa was my favorite. And I just feel, I mean, it's almost like Melissa is that friend that says, you're worthy, we love you, you know. So I'm grateful for Melissa. And I did want to share something that was so hilarious, because I'm really learning how to love myself. Like I was telling you all the other day, taking myself on a date. But I'm serious. I'm going in, because and I'm learning the balance between being all about my children and, like, even with that, even when they make requests, well, no, I'm not gonna be able to do that, because normally I would be good to not offer things, but if they ask, but finding myself saying, well, no, even something small, like, well, no, that's not gonna work for me, and feeling good about it, not feeling guilty. So I'm just very grateful for that. And it keeps evolving. Like this, me loving myself, it keeps evolving. It keeps, like, even with my sister and working with her, I'm really considering resigning. But I'm just making a plan. I'm making a plan. I'm making my plan because I realize I don't want to work for her. I've done it to help her, but I just keep being given more things or thrown, like, I'm like, so I'm realizing even if it doesn't happen today, I'm going to make a plan for, like, my business and my purpose and what I want to do. And I'm going to phase that out. But I think because she's my sister, I was just trying to make it work. So anyway, I'm very grateful. Thank you all for this space. And like I said, I'm committed because I hadn't talked to someone in a couple months, and I said at 12:30, and then at 12:31, I was like, okay, I have my call. And the conversation was so enriching and wonderful, but it was like, so anyway, am I gonna take my breath now and then go like this?
Yeah. So what I'll just say, let's all ground and root and take a breath with Shannon.
Okay. Nice. That's nice. I like that.
It's sweet, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you bring your hands up, it opens up your chest cavity, so you get more air in too.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of bringing your hands up. So if anybody can't breathe, make them put their hands up.
Well, that's why they do that when you're a little kid. They're like, put your arm up, put your arm up.
Are you like a first responder or a CPR person? That's just knowledge you just know.
I studied dance for a while, and when we were working really hard, she would say, put your arms up and breathe and get more air down into your lungs. And the rest just made sense.
Thank you for sharing that. It's like, it feels like one of those innate things that, when someone says it and you're like, you remember where you heard it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to read Melissa real fast if you guys want to hear it. I'm sure Shannon looked it up. Well, it says the oil of light. Melissa oil awakens the soul to truth and light. It reminds individuals of who they truly are and why they came to this earth. That's precious.
Yeah.
Melissa invites one to release everything and anything that holds them back from reaching their fullest potential. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to get it out now. It's so amazing. My body's like, yes, Melissa. Good choice. Um, let's see. Deirdre, Faith, do either you have anything to add or share?
I kind of have a testimony for what's been going on in my classroom because I'm in the high school and I'm a teaching assistant, and a lot of our students have been super stressed because of the COVID nonsense the last 2 years. And being in the building this year has been like the first time that they've had an entire school year in the building. And just socializing with each other, they're just not normal, if that makes any sense. And there's a lot of anxiety and stress and all kinds of stuff going on with them. So I've been diffusing in my classroom. First, I started with adaptive, and then I added citrus bliss, and I do the combo, and they absolutely love it. I even have two very hyperactive students that like to like literally go over the diffuser and just like breathe it in like they're vaping. And it can't hurt them. So I just let them do it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
I think that COVID has caused this. It's like a PTSD condition with a lot of people that are so stressed out. And just what has happened is everybody is so fearful. And they're just it's like PTSD, really, is what everybody's going through now.
It's very interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you done?
Yes.
I don't want to cut you off.
Miss Faith, are we going to do our breathing?
Oh, well, it's more of a comment. Do you have a personal note, Faith?
I mean, just that to me is just encouraging me, but nothing more than that personally.
I would like to share with you guys a different breathing exercise. On here, we've used the Wim Hof breathing, where we're flooding our system with oxygen and seeing the benefits of how the brain feels and how it will build resilience. But there's a different one that I've learned recently, and I'd love to share it with you guys. And I would like to pair it with contentment. And contentment is where we let go of the things in our life that are causing discontent, which sounds obvious. So for me, it's looking for what's next. And instead of staying right here, right now, and enjoying what is and loving what is. So for me, and I hope that I can share this correctly with you guys, it's just finding that way to sit with, if I were to close my eyes and imagine I was born just now, and I open my eyes with a fresh point of view on the world, and I invite you, take a breath with your nose. And which one is your dominant nostril? Just take a few breaths and see which one brings more air into your body. So for me, my dominant is my right nostril. So just figure out which one is for you. So what we're going to do is take your thumb, same side body, and we're going to close the dominant nostril. So we'll just do 5 breaths through your opposite. Longer exhale. If your eyes are closed, then open your eyes with a fresh point of view. So that would be considered a intervention. If you find yourself in a discontent, overwhelmed moment, and you want to come back to your body, then you can do that. And it's a very easy, any time of day kind of thing. With Wim Hof, you can't necessarily do that driving or operating heavy machinery because it does flood your brain with oxygen and you can get a little bit high.
Yeah, I did that once. It was not a good idea.
Yeah. So with this very short, it helps you kind of find your personal space and your bubble. And if you're like, okay, I want to try this with my oils, why not do it with adaptive and citrus bliss? Why not do it with your Melissa, whichever oil you're choosing in that moment? I have a very hard time journaling. And I am going to decide that I will do some of these interventions, like that breathing exercise, right before I am going to journal. I'll choose my oil, I'll do a little breathing, and it will help me stay in the present so that I can get my feelings on paper. So just a little nugget. Faith, you haven't been here. I'm doing like a series on the 12 steps, and I'm sure you've heard of them based on like the world experience. So it's not just for AANA or Al-Anon. It's for actually anybody who has felt that their life was unmanageable in some way. And this is just some way to kind of work through feelings and get back into your body and purge maybe some of the resentments or fears that have affected the way that you interact with yourself and with the world. So my kind of like juicy purpose right now is normalizing recovery and the 12 steps. As I myself, I mean, I'm an alcoholic. I would actually consider myself an addict and a codependent. So I don't necessarily mean that in a way because I am a person in recovery. So when I share that information with somebody, to me, it's a triumph, it's a joy, and not something to be ashamed of because it means that I'm working on improving my life. Just like somebody that survived cancer, they're a cancer survivor, they're a thriver. That person isn't going to say, I have cancer, I am cancer. So I wouldn't say I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to say I'm a person in recovery because the person that survived cancer would be also in recovery. So when I share this information, I want people to feel comfortable and know that whether or not you identify with recovery or just learning these holistic tools for supporting a healthy lifestyle. So I definitely feel that the 12 steps are for everybody, whether or not they're for yourself or just for learning in general. So let me share my screen. I am using, let's see. It's called the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions Workbook. And this is some information on step 5. Can you guys see it? It says admitted to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
What color is that book?
It's dark green.
Okay.
So it's this one here. So it's just I can read through it really quickly. Step 5 directs us to take specific action and make 3 very important connections. The first of these connections is with our higher power. The order of the 5th step reinforces a basic truth of recovery. Our relationship with God comes first. We can take time in prayer and meditation to open our hearts and communicate with the God of our understanding about the exact nature of our wrongs. Many of us choose to make a list of our codependent behaviors and beliefs from our 4th step before talking with our higher power. This level of honesty can be an intimate and powerful experience. We can be comforted that there are no secrets between ourselves and our higher power. We begin to be relieved of the burden of our secrets and learn to trust our higher power even more. This step helps us to understand that our higher power loves and cares for us just as we are. Step 5 instructs us to make our second connection with ourselves and admit the exact nature of our wrongs to ourselves. Though at first it may seem we have already accomplished this in the course of completing an inventory, that would be step 4. The 5th step guides us to solidify the truths we have uncovered. We may choose to read our inventory out loud to ourselves to reflect upon the nature of what we have discovered. Admitting the exact nature of our wrongs is more than repeating to ourselves what we have written. Instead, we take the truth of our history and our codependency into our hearts. Giving the 5th step to ourselves and looking at our self-defeating behaviors and the harm we have caused ourselves and others may put us in touch with the exact nature of our wrongs as never before. As we do this, we can see the pain caused by our denial. An honest 5th step supports us in our recovery and helps us understand why our lives were unmanageable. Admitting our wrongs to ourselves helps break through the great honesty, self-awareness, and acceptance. The final instruction of step 5 requires us to connect with another human being and admit the exact nature of our wrongs. Most of us accomplish this task by reading our inventory to a person who feels safe to us. We seek out someone who will actively listen without shaming or judging, who will listen with compassion and caring. This person could be our sponsor or someone else whose recovery program we respect, a close friend, spiritual advisor, a therapist, or a step study group of a recovering codependence. Trusting the steps and acknowledging that this process has worked for others can help us push through our fear. As we do our 5th step work, we recognize our codependent behavior patterns, where they came from, and the harm they have caused. Doing the 5th step begins to open the door to truth, joy, and freedom. Remembering we can take care of ourselves and asking for what we need supports us in working this step. We can set boundaries with the person we have chosen to share this with. For example, we may ask them to listen without comment or to provide feedback. We can establish the length of time the work will take us, as well as where we wish it to take place. Trusting that our higher power is with us allows us to feel safe as we share the exact nature of our wrongs with another human being. Step 5 opens the door to truth and freedom. Step 5 teaches us to be vulnerable and to trust. Step 5 is about letting go. So these are just some of the gifts of step 5 and receiving it. So these 2 steps, this step 4 and step 5, can be like a place where people can get a little bit mired in shame and what's the word I'm looking for? Abandonment of self, because you can start to feelings will start to come up, and then you might tell yourself, oh, well, that's not right, or that's wrong. Don't feel that. And it's a very hard habit to break of feeling a feeling and then instantly feeling guilty or ashamed of the feeling. So I just want to share that guilt and shame are 2 different things. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. So when we purge our step 4 and then begin to say it out loud or admit it, we're working toward an amends. So that doesn't matter how bad it was. Once we're working on a living amends, or we can, if it's safe to say it to the person to say that you're sorry, it can be it gets downgraded. So it's no longer shame, and now it can live in guilt, because that means that you are a good person and you have values. If you feel guilty about it, that's actually a good thing, because it means you're not a sociopath. Shame is another thing. Nobody needs to live with shame. If they're living a living amends, then there is no shame. So anywho, that was just a little piece I wanted to share, and something that I am still definitely working on. Something, Shannon, you mentioned about saying no and feeling good about it. I had to set a boundary and say no to somebody the other day, and it racked me with guilt, even though it's the best thing for myself. So, yeah. In my yoga training, there was a pose that really helped with knowing that the decisions we make and the boundaries we set with other people, that it affirms that you have your back. So, anywho, that do you guys want to do it? Just one little pose.
Sure.
Okay. So let me stop share for a second. And I can share those worksheets if you want. Okay. So if you stand in mountain pose, so it's just standing, with even footing on both feet. And just notice, kind of spread out your toes. Just kind of notice the parameters of your feet. That if you have more weight in your heel on one foot, is there more weight on your big toe? Try to even it out. So I kind of like to allow myself to be a pendulum and feel the outside pinky, the front toes, big toe, inside heel, outside heel. And that kind of helps me to recalibrate and stack my body. And just notice, where are your knees in relation to your ankles? Could your knees soften a little bit? Where are the hips in relation to your knees? Could one leg soften a little bit? So in this pose, if we were to take a breath up and be reminded of the gifts of our higher power and receive them into your heart. And you can bring your hands to heart, exhale. I'll add a little bit to this. So if we're here in our mountain pose and we bring our hands up in a breath of gratitude, exhale, step your left foot back into a little bit of a warrior. Exhale, hands out and open. And squeeze your shoulder blades back. Strong back, meaning you have your own back. Inhale up, hands up. Receiving the love of your higher power. Exhale, hands open and back. Open heart, strong back. And we can bring our feet back together into our resting mountain pose. And we'll take a breath up. And hands to heart. Exhale. That was it. Thanks for letting me practice on you guys.
So do you repeat that on both sides?
Yeah.
Typically?
So it's really fun to make sure that in a pose that you do the inhale and then exhale, like find your rhythm with each movement. So when you make a movement forward or backwards, you inhale and then exhale. And that is another intervention. It will automatically get you straight back into your body and into the present. So pretty amazing. Yeah. I love learning things like that, and we can use them for ourselves, and when it's appropriate to share with another. you have anything to add, you guys, or comments?
That pose with the hands up like that is also called the power pose in Qigong, which is another, I don't know what you call it. Religion,
Yeah.
therapy.
I mean,
It empowers.
yeah. When we go through these steps, and particularly in these middle working steps of 4 and 5, it can make you feel small. And pairing it with this reminder that your higher power is with you, and also you have your back. You know, when we make these yes or no decisions and we set boundaries, it's not our responsibility. Other people's feelings about our decisions are not our responsibility, and it's none of your business. We have to make decisions that are right for us and feel good about it. You know, strong back, open heart.
I was thinking the same thing, like, because Qigong is what I practice. So there's a movement like this, you know, like this. And that movement is for the lungs and the emotion of grief. So like the acupressure points are here. So it kind of, so I said, wow, that's so cool how all these things are connected. So although that was more of a yoga practice, immediately I thought about the lungs.
Yeah. I'm so happy you guys like it. And I love sharing and hearing what you guys learn in your experience. It's always something, we all get something from it. The oil I used today was Balance, and I've been really like focused on what oils I use on my armpits and my breasts. So I'm like, anything that I'm gonna you breathe in, I'm like, okay, it's got to go on the boobs too. So it just feels like the right thing for me, moving the energy in this way. So it's funny. So next week,
That was my oil. That was my oil today too.
oh good,
Balance.
we're twinsies.
Yeah.
So next week we're gonna do step 6, which is, I still have to look, even though I've done it.
Ask a question. It kind of like you restarted this series. So, and I came in, I think, in step 3. Should I go back? And you're using more than one book. So how can we play catch up?
Well, if you've got the green book, you've got this one, right? So just go back and read it and you can answer the questions. I have to, personally, I redo the steps in my head, step 1, 2, and 3, like every day. You know, it's just because if I catch myself feeling unmanageable, I say, what can I let go of today? God help me. I can't do this by myself. I surrender. You have to do, you kind of have to say them in your head every day. You know, so we think we can do it all, but we're here for, to connect. So step 6 is we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So sometimes I will backslide into my coping skills that are not positive. Because before I had positive coping skills, I had my survival instincts. And I came with the tools that I was taught. So there's nothing wrong with what I did outside of if they hurt other people and myself, but I just didn't know better. So some of my coping skills tend to be, I want to zone out in front of TV. And a little TV is fine, but when it goes into avoiding work and and life in general, that's when we know we're using it to avoid life and feelings. So, and, I just tend to go there because it's easy for me to escape. So when in step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, there may be somewhere that you're like, but not that one. So that's okay. It's progress, not perfection. So I'm excited. So we're definitely just using these, time together as I'm over reviewing the steps. It's not necessarily like you have to keep up and get the steps done in this timely manner. I just want to make sure that I'm talking about them and normalizing them for the everyday person in these
I did have a question, something that came up. I was looking at like my Essential Life book, and I was looking up the limbic system and the brain. Because I've just been doing some different work, looking at some different series, and something like one of the things the lady was saying was that sometimes things are planted in our brain, or we do different habits, and it kind of changes things, and then we have to reprogram and things like that. And I guess I never thought about the brain, like when I'm like the limbic system, like it's like, so I'm just curious, have you like done any work with the brain or done any studying on the brain? Because
Yep.
you
I'll share it next week.
have,
That was actually like my whole training from this weekend,
mm,
learning about how different parts of the brain are used in, particularly in behavior and addiction and stress, and working on when we catch ourselves going down the same path. Because it's just like, when you go hiking and you see the deer path, you're like, oh, you can see where the animals go every day to go get their water. You have
mhm,
the same way that you do something. You wash your hands exactly the same way, tap, 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 it's the
mhm,
same way that you do it. So when we are asking for a shift, that's where the essential oils and the breathing techniques and the journaling is going to help you go, oh, and then make a new neural pathway.
mm,
And when we do our interventions for ourselves, so in the morning you have a routine, or there's things that you do for yourself, like meditating and prayer, that are going to set you up for success so that you can turn the dial down on your nervous system so that you're not going to react. I remember when I like in withdrawal, so like, which I lived in withdrawal for years because I would drink at night, bottle of wine, wake up in the morning, my body's in withdrawal, I feel like crap.
mm,
Loud noises would make me jump, because my nervous system, the dial was just turned all the way up. And
mm.
we all have our versions of that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, because I was so encouraged, because it was like, there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to like reprogram your brain. It's just learn this behavior. And I felt like, wow, really? So now I'm like, doing some study of the brain and the
Yeah.
oils. And so thank you so much. I look forward to that next week.
If you go to y12sr.com, or you can find it on yogainternational.com. Her name's Nikki Myers, but you can go to her direct website. I believe it's just y12sr.com. You can
Okay.
take the first class, and it has all the brain stuff in there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I am going to share tidbits of it here. There's another place you can go look at it. Peter Levine, his book Waking the Tiger. That's all about it's what they call epigenetics. So how there's wild animals like tigers and bears and foxes and possums, and
Mm-hmm.
they all still have their ability to have a traumatic event and completely just shake it off.
Mm-hmm.
When an animal, like say like the rabbit is being chased by the fox, and then the rabbit gets away. The fox didn't get it. Now, it's not going to go tell that story 20 times and relive it. It's going to go in its little rabbit hole and it's going to shake it off. And that's it.
Mhm.
So animals like dogs and cats and, animals that have been around people for too much, their genetics have changed now where they can't shake it off and they can be traumatized. Same thing for people. So for us, the emotions get stored in our body and the brain response. So we have to relearn how to release, you know? So yeah, Peter Levine is a great resource.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, my friends. Well, I'm so grateful that we came and got to do this. And I'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.